Hey everybody, welcome back to another quick update video. I got a tweet from someone. It was Clive Illenden. Hopefully I didn't ruin your name there when I read that. But Clive tweeted at us and they said, "Hey Stadiacast," or "Hey guys, what are the top 5 things that you think Stadia must do now in order to build their launch short term and long term?" And that's a really, really great question. And I kind of been thinking about it ever since. I've been hemming and hawing between should I talk about this or should I talk about that? And I made some notes on my iPad, which I've got sitting here in front of me, on my keyboard in front of me. And I've been trying to decide what are the 5 things that I think that they need to do. Now, before I answer this question, I just want to remind everybody who's watching this. I really do appreciate everybody who hangs out here. In fact, I'm recording this live right now. There's a bunch of people in chat, and so maybe I'll be able to talk to them, in the middle of this video, and we'll see what they think the top 5 things that need to happen. But let me give you my top 5, and before I do, hit that like button if you like this channel. Don't forget to subscribe, and of course, click the bell. All right, so the top things that I think Stadia needs to do in order to continue with their plan to make, I guess, the unconsole. Number one, the number one thing that I think that they need to do is demos. They need to have demos. Now, right now, everybody who is playing Stadia has already bought in. We've already been convinced, and we've already tried it out, and we're already like, yep, it works. So that's not important to do today. But he said short term and long term. So it's important for them to do down the road, and I need to mute that. Sorry about that. It's important for them to do down the road because once Stadia Base comes out, and if you are unfamiliar, Stadia Base is when everything is free. And then you just buy the games that you want. And if you want to go for 4K, then you pay for it. But Stadia Base is going to come out next year. And when it does, they need to get people to try it. I've talked about this on the channel before. And what's really, really important is that people try this. It's kind of like VR. Until you've tried it, you're going to be skeptical. And people don't want to shell out money for something that they're not sure it's going to work or not. That's why demos are so important. So I think the number one thing that Google needs to do with Stadia is get demos out there. Super important. That's number one. Number two, we already know a bunch of games that are coming this year. We know some games that are coming next year, but we need more games to be announced. I know that they don't want to announce them too early, and I for one, have really hammered home against developers and publishers who announce things way too early in the past. I do feel like Google is sitting here behind a little too much secrecy. It's a hard balance to get, but they gotta make sure they don't announce stuff too early, and they gotta make sure that they announce stuff soon so that they can build more hype. So I think announcing games that are coming in the next 3 months or so, I think that is very, very important. It would really get people more excited about the platform, and it would excite a lot of the people who believe in the platform, like they think it's really a good thing, but maybe a lot of the games that are on it right now don't appeal to them. Now, I will say this. The games that are on Stadia now, they are very widespread. They cover a lot of genres. So I do think that everybody's got at least 1 or 2 games that can appeal to them. That being said, we've had this for a few weeks now, and 1 or 2 games for people who have a plethora of free time, those aren't going to last very long. So I think that we need more games announced. So number 1 is demos. Number 2, they need to announce more games. Number 3, they need to be giving out buddy passes on social media. This is important. They should be out there on social media every single day doing little contests and giving out buddy passes so that people can try it. And I know that they're doing that thing where they're driving to cities like Los Angeles and London and Paris and trying it out and letting people try it out at like these pop-up stores. But they need to be able to try it out in their house. They need people to go on Twitter and, react to something or enter a contest and win a buddy pass. I think that is very important, and they need to be doing it all the time. There's no reason for them not to. The most that it will cost them is $129, and that's only if somebody tries it and says, "Oh, this is a disaster. I don't like it." And I've used it, and it's not a disaster, and it works really good. So you need as many people to try it as possible. So I think that buddy passes being given out by Google on social media, there's a siren going by right now. I think that that's very important. Number 4, they need to do better at communications. I think that they should hire me as their communications department. That's never going to happen, but that's okay. What they need to do is they need to make sure that the people who are in charge of their Twitter, in charge of their all social media, in charge of the subreddit, in charge of the Discord, all of those people need to be in the know and need to be communicating on a regular basis. Do they need to make community posts every day? No. But we had 4 last week, and so far none this week. And it's just kind of crazy that that's what's going on. Like a lot of this stuff should be spaced out. Now, of course, some of the communications that we've received in the past or last week was time-sensitive stuff. Hey, we fixed Final Fantasy 15, or hey, this happened. So I understand that. But I do think that their communications department needs to get better. And what they also need to do is work on their messaging. I was on an episode of Breaking the Panel, which is a podcast about video games, movies, just general fandom. We talked a lot about The Mandalorian. We talked about Star Wars. We talked about Ghostbusters. We talked about Stadia. We talked about YouTube. So make sure that you check out that podcast. It's called Breaking the Panel, and you can probably find it at gstu.net. All right. So I was on that yesterday, and we talked extensively about what Stadia is and the misinformation that people are getting. And so I was talking to these guys, and they had a lot of bad information, and I had to correct them on it. This is something that Google needs to fix. And part of it is Google's fault, but I think 98% of it is everybody else's fault. Look, people assumed that this was the Netflix of gaming. Google never said that. That's just what people assumed. And then people got mad when it turned out that they were wrong. That's not really fair to Google. People assumed that, you know what, I'm not going to get into everything that I said on yesterday's show again. So go check that out. But they need to fix their communications. They need to market this and stop talking about 4K 60, because that's not important. It might be important to you, and that's fine. But to the vast majority of people who are going to be playing on this, 4K 60 does not matter to them. Most people don't care about that. Most people don't have a 4K TV in their house. Most people have a 1080p TV, and 4K 60 is unimportant to them. Having high-res textures is unimportant to them. You know what's important to them is if the game is fun and if the game is convenient. And that's where Stadia really, really shines. But Google just never talks about that for some reason. They keep talking about 4K 60, and I think that's a mistake. So I think that they need to pivot away from that and start focusing on how do they make this more, just fix their messaging and make it more obvious that this is a console of convenience, not the most powerful thing in the world. And yeah, guess what? Right now, it's more powerful than the PS4 and the Xbox One. But guess what? There are some games that look better on Xbox One than they do on Stadia, even though Stadia is more powerful. Why? Because those games are ports, and those games were not made for Stadia, and those games were not made with Vulkan in mind. And because of all that, it's hard for the developers to figure this stuff out. So when Google goes out there and says 4K 60, 4K 60, people look at it and they're like, well, it doesn't look as good as my Xbox. I'm going to move on. If Google goes out there and they say convenience, 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 then they've got a leg to stand on. And, I understand. They should not have said the 4K 60 thing from the beginning. And that's what I've talked about on this show many times. All right, number 5. Number 5 thing that they have to do, and this is long-term. Long-term, Stadia Pro needs to kind of copy what Xbox Game Pass is doing. I think maybe we have the Stadia Pro, which is 4K 60, and then maybe Stadia Pro Plus Go, whatever they want to call it, down the road, which is maybe $15 a month and gets you a certain number of games that rotate in and out of your library, like the Netflix of gaming. Right now, that doesn't make a lot of sense because there's so few games on the platform. But down the road, I do think that that's something that they need to do. Anyway, I want to know what you all think is the 5 things that you think Google needs to do in order to succeed in the gaming industry. And if you let me know in the comment section down below, I will, of course, be reading that stuff. So thank you very much for the question. And thank you very much for hanging out in us. And before we go, I'm going to look at chat and see what chat is saying. Family sharing. People are saying family sharing. That makes a lot of sense. Let's see. What else are people saying? Demos. Achievements. A lot of people want achievements. Andrew says that they want more sports games. Let's see. Make play credit work, at least in Chrome. Retro games. So there's a lot of ideas out there. Chris has a really good one. Annual subscriptions. Instead of being month to month, annual subscriptions makes a lot of sense. Donovan says communication. So I agree. Anyway, you guys are fantastic. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to click that bell so you get notified every time that I post a new video or go live. And stick around, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. 27